On a quiet Tuesday morning, the Los Angeles County Superior Court buzzed with the usual drone of proceedings. Defense attorneys huddled near benches, clerks tapped on keyboards, and Officer Chad Miller lounged near the witness stand like he owned the place. With his badge polished and smirk rehearsed, he looked ready to coast through another case. Then she entered. No guards, no lawyers, no entourage, just a woman with a calm gaze, a navy blouse, and soft curls pinned neatly back. Her name on the witness list read Danielle Monroe. No rank, no fanfare, just another black woman called to testify in a brutality case that most already dismissed in their minds. Miller noticed her immediately. Didn't know the janitor got a seat, he muttered. Laughter rippled through the back. He wasn't done. Hope she brought her mop. Even the bailiff smirked. The judge, Robert Sterling, didn't even look up. Danielle sat composed, hands folded. She didn't flinch, didn't speak. What no one in that courtroom knew was that she wasn't just a witness. Danielle Monroe was a covert operative with the Department of Justice, embedded in a months-long investigation into corruption in LA's legal system. She'd spent 10 months trailing Miller, listening to Sterling, connecting dots no one dared touch. Today was the final setup, and they were walking right into it. Across town, a task force monitored every word from inside the courtroom. Riley Chun, surveillance expert, scrubbed through audio. Lena Wright, DOJ attorney, highlighted years of vanishing misconduct files. Tarek Jenkins followed money trails. Together, they built a map of corruption that led straight to Chad Miller and Judge Sterling. Back in court, Miller leaned in toward another officer. Sterling will bury it like always. I could shoot someone in here and still clock out by 5. He said it loud enough for the stenographer. Danielle didn't react. She didn't have to. Every insult, every sneer, every silence from the bench was feeding a storm the court didn't see coming. And it was all being recorded, legally, quietly, and soon to be very, very public. That night, back at the safe house, a manila envelope landed on the table. Kevin Reed, former LAPD whistleblower, stood quietly. This was buried, he said. Inside, incident reports, sealed complaints, hospital photos, one showing a teenager bruised and handcuffed. Danielle's cousin. Her fingers trembled only for a second. You sure you want to go all the way with this? Kevin asked. Danielle looked up. I was born ready. The next morning, court resumed like nothing had changed. But everyone felt it, something off. Even the jury whispered now. Danielle was still silent, still watching. Miller cracked another joke. Judge Sterling ignored it. And Danielle? She smiled just slightly. At 9:42 a.m., the prosecution stood. Elena Foster, calm and clear, addressed the bench. Your Honor, we request to submit new evidence, including surveillance audio and internal documents tied directly to both the accused and this courtroom. Sterling hesitated. On what basis? Elena held up a flash drive. Admissible under Rule 403. National interest. The screen descended behind the bench. Miller's voice filled the room. You just send it to Sterling. He'll bury it deep enough, even the devil can't dig it back up. A hush fell. No one moved. The audio continued. Jokes about cleaning the streets, about planting evidence, about silencing complaints. Sterling went pale. Then came the documents, a signature from his office dismissing a complaint without cause. His own name, his own ink. Elena turned toward the bench. We also request testimony from the confidential informant who provided this. The judge blinked. Then Danielle stood. She walked to the front of the courtroom, unhurried, composed. The jury watched. The officers behind Miller stopped whispering. Judge Sterling's lips parted, but no words came. Danielle took the stand. My name is Danielle Monroe. For the past 10 months, I've been operating as a DOJ investigator assigned to expose systemic corruption in this courtroom. I remained silent to observe, to listen. What you've heard, what you've all ignored, is not an accident. It is design. Gasps rippled across the gallery. Miller froze. Sterling gripped the edge of the bench. Danielle continued. The evidence provided is only the beginning. There are more recordings, more documents, more names. She turned to look directly at Sterling. Judge, This is not your courtroom anymore. It's the people's now. Suddenly, the doors to the courtroom swung open. Uniformed federal officers entered, quiet but firm, walking toward the front. Sterling stood. "This is outrageous, sir," one agent interrupted. "You need to step away from the bench." The room erupted. Reporters stood, flashing cameras. Defense attorneys shouted. One juror fainted. And through it all, Danielle sat back down, silent, composed. This was no longer a trial. That it was a reckoning. And it wasn't over yet. Danielle turned to the jury. "What you've just heard is only a fragment. Officer Miller, Judge Sterling, and others form a chain of corruption that buried reports, silenced victims, and treated racial abuse as routine. I'm not just a witness. I'm a federal agent. This isn't a trial anymore. It's a crime scene." The courtroom froze. Miller shot to his feet. "She's lying. This is entrapment." Danielle didn't look at him. She spoke clearly. "The DOJ has 42 sealed testimonies, 3 years of records, and 7 audio tapes, just like the one you heard. Miller's words are real. Sterling's dismissals match unreported payouts. There's more, but that belongs in a federal court." She locked eyes with Sterling. This time, the judge flinched. "You once told a grieving mother, justice is about perception." "Well, sir, perception has changed. Justice is here." Bailiffs moved in. No one needed prompting. Miller backed up, eyes darting to the exits. No one helped him. No one stopped them as the cuffs clicked closed. And Danielle? She sat back down, calm, watchful, waiting for the next name to fall. By noon, Miller was trending nationwide. News anchors called it a federal courtroom sting. Headlines screamed, corruption exposed, DOJ infiltration, systemic rot. But Miller wasn't the target. He was only the start. Danielle had a bigger name pinned to the center of her board, Attorney General Maxwell Thorne. That evening, Danielle sat alone in her federal office. Screens blinked with emails, interview requests, and threats. She ignored them. Her attention was locked on a single folder. Inside, an audio file. Thorne's voice. "Keep Miller. He's messy, but useful. Let Sterling handle the paperwork. We don't need headlines from neighborhoods we don't invest in." The tape had come from Kevin Reed, again. A former officer turned informant. Reed entered quietly. "They'll come for you now," he said. "Thorne isn't just a man. He's a machine." Danielle didn't look up, and machines can be dismantled. The next morning, Thorne took the offensive. Standing on Capitol steps in Sacramento, he addressed cameras with a smirk. "This disruption," he said, "is a stunt by an overzealous operative with personal bias. Reckless, politically motivated." He never said Danielle's name. He didn't have to. Back at the DOJ office, Danielle's team had tripled. Analysts, federal auditors, internal affairs. Sterling's rulings were now under formal review. Over 70 sealed complaints had been reopened. And Thorne? His name was now at the center of a spiderweb of suppressed investigations. Riley, her surveillance expert, slid a document across the table. "You'll want to see this," he said. $250,000 campaign donation. The sender, a private prison contractor. The date, 2 weeks before Thorne dropped charges in a wrongful death suit involving a suspect Miller had arrested. Danielle's hands went still. Her voice didn't. "That's our opening." That night, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Ms. Monroe," came the voice, smooth and precise. "I believe it's time we speak. Publicly. Peacefully." It was Thorne. "I've arranged a meeting. Tomorrow at noon. Neutral ground. 1 hour." She didn't answer. But she went, not to talk to T. or stare him in the eye. At a rooftop restaurant overlooking Los Angeles, Thorne sat with confidence and a crystal glass of water. "You've caused a storm," he said, smiling. "Truth tends to do that," Danielle replied. He leaned in. "Let this case dissolve quietly. In return, you'll lead a national task force on reform. You'll be the face of change." Danielle didn't blink. "You want me to fix the house you set on fire? I'm offering you a seat at the table." She stood. "I don't want a seat. I want the whole table flipped." And she left. 3 days later, Los Angeles wasn't breathing the same. It was tense. Watching. Danielle stood before a wall now covered in strings, printouts, and names. The target was clear. Not Miller. Not Sterling. Thorne. Her team had everything: bank trails disguised as community grants, emails pushing prosecutors to avoid exposure, and one last recording, cold and brutal. Thorne, laughing with a donor, throw the public a body every few years. One headline, one scapegoat, keeps him believing. The real machine runs on silence. That audio aired at 11:08 noon. Every major network was replaying it. At 5:32 p.m., Thorne's office denied it as selectively edited. At 7:11, the DOJ issued a warrant. Danielle didn't watch his arrest. She was already drafting motions to reopen 16 cases Thorne buried. Outside, crowds gathered. But this time, they weren't protesting. They were celebrating. A week later, Danielle flew to Washington, D.C., summoned to testify before a federal ethics committee. The room was colder than any courtroom. Panel members didn't smile. "You understand," the chairman asked, "that what you've done threatens the credibility of a national political system?" Danielle didn't hesitate. "Then maybe," she said, "it's time that system earned its credibility back." No applause. No reaction. Just pens scribbling notes. That night, alone in her D.C. hotel room, Danielle received a single message on a secure line, "No name." Just 5 words. "You haven't reached the top." She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she stood, walked to the window, and looked down at the Capitol dome glowing in the night. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. But she knew. The storm wasn't over. IT was only getting stronger.